Okay. Okay. On that note, good evening, and we'll call to order. And if I could get an approval of the agenda and a motion to move agenda item C1, the letter dated January the 17th, 2016, from Regional Director Mike Hicks, to immediately following receipt of draft Council Committee minutes. And the supplementary. Thank you. Second? Second, Councillor Pearson. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. All right. So we'll move into the adoption of the Council and COW meeting minutes. So we'll start with January the 11th, the regular Council meeting. Councillor Casper. Second. Councillor Parkinson, any comments, additions, corrections to it? Okay, all in favor? Carried.
Move committee of the whole.
Second. Councillor Berger, second. Any comments? Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Move special council meeting.
Second, Councillor Logans. Any comments or errors, omissions? Okay, all in favor? Carried. I should ask, anybody opposed? Okay.
And move receipt of the draft council committee minutes for information.
Okay, both.
January 5th and 12th.
Okay. Second. Councillor Berger, any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So that takes us to, I'm going to make sure I'm doing this in order, C1. And that is the letter from Regional Director Mike Hicks. Okay. I'm just trying to find it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Mr. Hicks, did you want to come forward and provide council with a Coles Notes version of what you're looking for this evening? If you can state your full name and spell your last name.
Mike Hicks. I'm the Regional Director of Wanda Fuca, and also a resident of Souk. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being so swift to respond to this request from the CRD and from myself. So I will do it without the notes, I guess, since you already have a letter which is very, very self-explanatory. But the nuts and bolts of it, we have 6,000 geese in the Capital Regional District from here to Sydney, or from here to the Gulf Islands. And they estimate it'll go to 60,000 geese in 20 years. The 6,000 geese are absolutely devastating to many people, parks and lakes and stuff, but they're especially devastating to farmers, and they're especially devastating to the farmers in the Souk region. So we want to try to do something about it, and there's a few ways to deal with the geese. One is addling eggs, and that's basically going with volunteers and shaking the eggs or hitting them with a needle and popping them or putting oil on the eggs, and it takes a lot of training. And you have to have a permit, so it's very cumbersome, and it's a tough program to administer. And although it is going on in the CRD, it's not well done. And then the other way is to apply to the federal government for what's called a kill permit, and that's basically rounding up geese during molting season and rounding them up together and then hitting them with a bolt gun and killing them. And it's not really a desired way to go because it's very unreliable. The geese are pretty smart, and they're there one day and you get everyone ready and they're all gone. And it's very expensive. You might have seen the CRD spent $30,000 doing 42 of them. So it can be, it's not very good. And above all, the geese are molting and they don't have any fat on them, so they're no good to eat, and you can't eat them anyways. The government will not let you eat them. So the last way is hunting, and currently every municipality, rural municipality in the Capital Regional District, so North Saanich, Central Saanich, Metchosin, except Souk, in their firearms bylaw exempts farmers that have crop damage permits which are issued by the federal government of Canada. And so I'm asking you for two things tonight, if I could, is to amend your bylaw, your firearms bylaw. Your firearms bylaw says no firearms, period. And it does not have an exemption for farmers. And so they're out of luck right away. So the first thing to do, if you could be so kind, is to look at your firearms bylaw and amend it so that it would exempt farmers that have a crop damage permit. The second thing is, and I'm asking all the rural municipalities to amend their bylaw again to say if that hunting may take place in addition to on lands that already have a crop damage permit and have their permit and their nominees. So in a crop damage permit, the federal government's not interested in reducing numbers. They're interested in scaring or what they call hazing geese. So they'll give Councillor Pearson, who's got a farm, he'll get a crop damage permit, and he can get 5 or 10 nominees as his hunters. He doesn't have to do it himself, and they register, and they come from Delta, from Vancouver, where their office is. They inspect this farm. They go to the RCMP. They say, well, you've got to be this, you have to be 100 yards from a road. You have to be 100 yards from a house. You've got to use this type of shot so it doesn't go too far. And they get him all set up. He gets his permit, and he's allowed to shoot between 5 and 10 geese a week. And those geese, the idea is you shoot them, they fall into the crops, and then the other geese leave. They won't come back, but sooner rather than later, a eagle comes, takes away the goose, and they have to shoot some more. So it's more of a hazing technique. It's not a way of reducing the flock. So what I'm suggesting, and it seems to be catching on pretty well, is that we allow in the same place that has a crop damage permit that's already had the municipality has already said it's okay, the RCMP have said it's okay, everyone's good, the neighbors have said it's okay. In those places, allow them to hunt during hunting season. And what that means is between the months of September and March, there's 4 hunting seasons, there's 4 2-week hunting seasons. And during those hunting seasons, those same nominees can shoot 10 geese a day, bag limit of 30, and unlike the crop damage permit, they can use decoys and they can use blinds, and they can take home their geese and eat them. In the crop damage permit, you can't use geese or blinds. So they sort of have your hands tied behind your back. So I'm asking you two things to help. I really believe we can give the farmers throughout the Capital Regional District, and I think this will spread everywhere, but I think we can give our farmers a little bit of power to protect their crops. And I think we can reduce the numbers of geese if you will amend your bylaw to allow, to exempt farmers or anyone with crop damage permits, and also to amend your bylaw to allow hunting on those same farms. And that's what I'm hoping you might consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Any questions from Council? Councillor Pearson?
Thank you for your presentation tonight, Mr. Hicks. A couple of questions that come up for me are, you say is it 6,000 you say there are here now, and there's predicted to be 60,000 in no time?
20 years.
Yeah, and it's constantly being brought forward as a complaint from kids using playgrounds, schools, soccer fields, that there's goose, I won't say that word, excrement.
Feces.
Goose feces all over the places. And it's actually becoming a health hazard. If it's bad in the water, it's got to be bad for kids who are playing soccer from getting cuts and sores and things on their legs as they do. So what do you see as a solution for, I think that the farms are kind of few and far between. Maybe there's more than I think. But somewhere like Edward Milne Field, is there a way that we could...
Well,
I'm asking a question because I think that there's a legitimate place there. We could.
I have an answer.
Yeah.
If there's 6,000 geese, if I can get 10 farms in the CRD to kill
600.
200 easy,
Yeah.
that's 2,000. That's 1/3. So first of all, you're going to reduce the numbers. Second of all, if we can get a successful Adeline program and lobby the federal government to say we don't need a permit. In the United States of America, you don't have to have a permit. They encourage everyone to get out and add a leg. So this can be done, probably from the CRD. And then the third thing is, I think you can. I'm looking at hazing or shooing them away. And there's in Ireland now, there's a laser that's $1,700, and instead of a gun, you shoot them at the field, and they won't come back. They don't like it at all. There's something called the Gooseinator I've looked into. That's a little wild though, and so there's no. So I think you're going to have to haze them, scare them out of the fields with technology, and there's a beautiful machine that's $9,000 in New Zealand, and it goes along and it picks up the feces, and so I think if we can get a handle, we're actually going to reduce the numbers. Then we can deal with that. We'll feel positive about it. But the main thing is the farmers. The main thing is the farmers, because if we allow this to go on any longer, it's all over, as far as I can see. And I talked to them, and I've got a friend, the Mitchell Farms, Terry Mitchell. He says he's got 700 geese in his field at one time. I mean, what do you do? Now, you have a farmer here. His name's John Buchanan, and he owns Perry Bay Farms. He's from Metchosin, but he leases the sheep farm on Silver Spray. He's not allowed to hunt, and he says he doesn't know what to do. There's so many geese there. The sheep can't get in the spring. They can't get the grass, and so anyways, you can make it happen. So I hope.
Councillor Casper and then Councillor Pearson.
Thanks for your presentation. It was actually better than the one you gave at the CRD, but it was pretty good too. So anyway, I would hope that council would support it. I gave full support when Director Hicks raised the issue at the CRD board. So I'm prepared to make a motion if it's appropriate that we instruct our staff to prepare some amendments or proposed amendments to our firearms bylaw to address the issue. I think it is pretty simple.
Okay, Councillor Berger. Any further discussion?
And thank you.
Thank you.
So just for clarification, okay. But just for clarification, it's to amend the firearms bylaw for exemption for farmers who have crop damage permits, and to look at including hunting during the hunting season with those crop damage for those farmers that have those permits.
Your Worship, an ideal motion might be to amend the bylaw to allow farmers that have to exempt farmers that have a crop damage permit. That's number one. And number two would be those farmers that have a crop damage permit, they be allowed to hunt during hunting season.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's what I was...
That would
okay.
clear the way.
Councillor Parkinson. All right. Councillor Berger? No? All right. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks, for your presentation. All right. So, yes, public input. Public question and comment. So that takes us into the public question and comment period.
Ellen Lewis, 5526.
I just want to read a little thing.
Oh,
Ms.
you got to read a
Lewis.
little
Sorry.
thing?
Yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
You can stay there.
I'll listen to you up here.
So public question comment period is limited to 10 minutes in duration unless extended by council. A member of the public may have 2 minutes during the public and question comment period to address council on items on the agenda for this meeting. And if you wish to address council, please begin by stating your first and last name. And I would also ask that you spell it, your last name, for the record. And a copy of the agenda has been placed on the podium for your reference. If you could just let council know which item you're speaking to, that would be great. Thank you, Mrs. Lewis.
Ellen Lewis, 5526 Sioux Road. And I was hoping that I would have been, that Mr. Hicks' comments could have come after the public hearing, because he's on the agenda, so I should have been able to speak to it before you made a motion, because there's more, but you can still talk to it, I guess.
Mrs. Lors, please, we've just sent it back to staff for that, so your comments
Oh,
are,
okay.
yes, you
Okay.
can speak to them.
Okay. So as a farmer and concerned citizen of Souk, I support the initiative in the letter put forward by Mike Hicks to cull the Canada goose and for the geese to be used for food. And to further control the Canada goose, I'd also encourage the collection of goose eggs for food instead of shaking them to stop further hatch this year. I would also ask that Council again put out the information not to feed deer or the grey squirrels, as both are also harmful to the farming and negate our income in a severe way. Deer, we know, eat almost anything, as do the geese, with greenery and grains. And we do have a serious issue with Mrs. Lunson's old farm, the Innisquash farm. They seeded oats last year, and the geese cleaned it all off. And that's really a shame. It's really devastating to the farmers. But squirrels not only devastate the nut crops, but strawberries, plums, and young chicks. And that's a fact. Not just little, but they eat the chicks. It's tough enough for farmers, and especially in light of high grocery prices, we better give the farmers a hands up so they can provide a greater supply of food in the area. And the geese also cause a lot of severe damage to the hay. I'd also ask Council to look at the firearm bylaw for Souk. And if you look on page 81 at your firearm bylaw, it says the discharging of firearms, including air guns, air rifles, air pistols, spring guns, is prohibited in the district of Souk. Any person that commits an offence under this bylaw is punishable, summary conviction of $500. Well, does $500. So does that include the conservation officers and the police officers? Because now you've eliminated everyone from firing. So again, your bylaws need to be looked at, and the firearms bylaw needs a good look. As when it was written, the whole air rifles, BB guns, etc., the bylaw is not descriptive and ambiguous. So paintballs may be considered air rifles. And what is wrong with air rifles? So are we going to now, if we have paintballs games out here, are we now going to be charging $500 fines to them? So that really needs to be looked at. There needs to be consultation with those who may be affected before bylaws are written up. In fact, it looks like no one, not even the conservation officer, can discharge a gun. I urge Council to change the bylaw to reflect the need for farmers to destroy geese, which are interfering with their right to farm and earn a living. There's also the issue, as Mike Hicks said, of geese on school playgrounds, negating the children's opportunity to play in the fields, as well as the soccer fields, ball fields, and the campgrounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lurs.
Acting Mayor Ray and council members. My name is Anita Wasuta, and that's ANITA WASIUTA, and I'm representing the Souk Regional Food Chi Society. While Souk Food Chi protects and looks after the sustainability of food, we also support our farmers. And it's not just buying food from them, it's also making sure that they can farm on their lands. And in this case, we highly support, Food Chi supports Director Hicks on his motion. I'm very pleased to see it's going to staff now. One of the things we did was a call to the farmers, and we got several replies back, and I'll include this. I won't read them out, but I'll include it in the letter. Much as Mrs. Lurs was saying, that the geese are coming. And one of our farmers, there were 300 birds the other morning on their fields. And again, they're eating the grass and the oats and everything else that are put on there. They are non-migratory, as we know, and it's just we need to shoo them away, and we need to be the predators for a little while, and I'm sure that they will move on. We all like to hear them, we all like to see them, but they are doing damage for our food and our playgrounds. So with that, thank you for putting it on to the staff, and I will pass this letter on. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Okay, anybody else as part of the public question and comment period? All right, then we will move into the bylaws. B1, 7,000 Malrick Place. And staff has a recommendation. I'm not sure, I don't think there's a report. This looks like it's... Okay. Councillor Logan, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. Thank you. B2 is the bylaw number 629, Officers and Employee Amendment Bylaw. And I believe that there's a, the one I have here is, there's been an amendment to it. Ms. Sullivan, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, there is a supplemental in your packages. It's file number 2510-01. Does everybody have it? It looks like it.
The one that's yellow that says revised. Okay, good.
And the recommendation is that council appoint myself as the Chief Administrative Officer, that council rescind the appointment of Michael Dillaball as a Director of Finance, that council rescind the appointment of Brent Blackall as Deputy Financial Officer and appoint him as Acting Director of Finance, and that council rescind the Animal Control Officer appointments for Rob Letts, Rob Helmy, Dean Ridley, Mike Crow, and Dave, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name, and that council appoint Ryan Johnson, Bobby Baines, and Andrew Fear as Animal Control Officers, and that council give first, second, and third reading to bylaw number 629, Officers and Employees Amendment Bylaw.
Okay. Somebody to move it? Councillor Berger, second. Councillor Pearson. Councillor Pearson.
So do you want to just make the motion to do all of these at one time, or do we have to do them individually?
I'll move first reading that bylaw 629 be amended.
Second.
Second.
Councillor Pearson. Any discussion?
I just have one question. I was just curious why we appoint Teresa Sullivan as CAO when she is already the CAO, when we hired her in that position.
It's a housekeeping matter.
It's your job. Thanks.
All in favor? Opposed?
I'll move second reading.
So move.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried?
I'll move third reading.
Councillor, any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. So we did that as a whole, right? Okay, I'm sorry, Councillor Casper. I thought you were wanting us to do it individually. Okay.
And I guess maybe we should do a motion for all the others.
Oh,
For each on the first page, right? Okay.
no.
No, it's not necessary.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, reports requiring action. The first one is the development permit amendment, 6995 Norden Road, Phase 4, Heronview Villas, and we have a staff report.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. This evening I'm presenting an amendment to an existing development permit within Heronview Villas development located at 6995 Norden Road. Last year, the owners asked for a similar amendment for Phase 3 at the entrance of the development. Having success with Phase 3, they're moving on to Phase 4 with the same type of amendments proposed. Phase 4 is going to be located where the red circle is on the map there. The applicants have asked that the floor area be reduced in size by 15 to 20%, which triggers minor changes to window placement, garage door style, and landscaping arrangement. They're also adding decks to each unit. The same architectural style will be used. These are just some photos from the site. The grassy area shown there in the photo is the location of Phase 4. The existing older structure will also be demoed to accommodate the new units. The applicant is aware that a demo permit is required prior to construction commencing. This is the proposed site plan and layout for Phase 4. Below the site plan is a photo of the units that are directly adjacent to the site. So the new units will remain in this craftsman style and will be using the same color palette. This application was referred out internally and no concerns were expressed regarding the proposed amendment. Staff is recommending approval of the development permit amendment for Phase 4. The applicant is not here this evening, but I can take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Lation. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Lation. You said 15%, 15 to 20% of the floor area. Is that what it was? And so what's the average floor area now?
I don't have that information in front of me right now.
I'm assuming they're around 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. Is that correct? I think. It might be even a little bit bigger. I'm asking. Sorry about that. Only question I shouldn't have asked. So, Ms. Leshin, I'm okay with that, as long as it's meeting our zoning bylaw. They're not going to be less than 600. What is it? 675 square feet or something like that. They're not going to go below. They're going to meet the zoning requirements, right? With a new floor plan.
All the zoning requirements are being met. They just continue to be met as per the existing.
They're just shrinking the footprint.
They're
right?
shrinking the footprint.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor Logans?
Seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so the next one is the RA2 subdivision in the Agricultural Land Reserve. It's a lot line adjustment, 6258 Sewell Road, and we have another presentation.
The district received an ALC application for 6258 Sewell Road. A resolution from council must accompany the application if council decides to forward the application for further consideration by the ALC. The applicant wants to proceed with a lot line adjustment on their ALR property. There are currently 2 lots. Lot 6 is 4.1 acres and Lot 5 is 2.6 acres. The property is zoned RU3, small scale agriculture, and is fully contained within the ALR. The property is adjacent to Souk River and is fully surrounded by other ALR lands. The applicants want to subdivide using Section 514 of the Local Government Act, formerly known as Section 946. This allows an applicant the ability to apply for a subdivision that does not meet the minimum lot size requirements of a zone. Proposed Lot A would be approximately 3,600 square meters, or just under 1 acre. The other advantage of consolidating proposed Lot B for the applicants is that the house and the barn would then be located on the same property. Currently, they're actually split. The unconstructed Calvert Road right-of-way would remain in place. CRD water is available on Sewell Road, and a septic field would need to be established for proposed Lot A. These are just some photos of the entrance to the property, and the photo at the bottom shows the area that would be proposed Lot A. This application was referred out internally and no concerns were expressed regarding the proposal. Staff are recommending that Council forward this request to the ALC with a recommendation for approval. I believe the applicant's here tonight, so either he or I can try to address any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions, Councillor Pearson?
No, I have no questions. I'll just move the recommendation.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Casper?
Yeah, I just have a question. So, is there any thought of asking for road dedication on Sewell Road from this property? Did that ever come up?
Once the ALC makes a decision on whether they would permit a lot line adjustment, then the applicants would then have to actually apply for subdivision through our office, and that would be determined at that time.
Okay, I don't mean to interfere in the duties of the approving officer, but if the current situation is the road is so wide, and if this is just a lot line adjustment that comes under and is termed a subdivision, then I don't think we should be going after grabbing more road right away on that property just because it's a technical move. They're not creating anything brand new that's going to add additional use as far as I can see. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, and just to answer Councillor Casper's, this is one of the things that we amended in Bylaw 600. And lot line adjustment where the density is, there's already two separate pieces of property, so there would be no increase. So I would hope that the staff wouldn't be asking for any kind of amenities in this particular case, because again, it's cleaning it up, because the barn and the house are on one separate lot. So I think this is one of these cases where it's not a subdivision the way that we approach this from the Land Use Committee and the recommendations last. Thank you.
Ms. Sullivan?
Thank you. And through the chair, I just want to remind Mayor and Council that the amenities contribution policy is under review, and that we will probably be having this discussion after we hear from the ALC.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so the next one is the alternate council member appointment to C Park. Oh, Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. This has come about because we had asked at the Sea Park Board. Right now we've got 2 people, and then we'd asked for an alternate. And the question actually went to the CRD board office before we could actually appoint somebody. So I think the CRD board office obviously has allowed that. So in looking at all the people that are on different commissions and boards and committees, I'd like to appoint you, acting mayor, if you take it. Us 3 are on the least amount. So that's sort of how I came to my conclusion.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or discussion?
How many are you on? I'm just curious.
I think Carrie and I are on 3 or 4, and Kevin's 2.
No, Kevin's 3.
Kevin's 2?
And 3. I'm 6, and you and Ebony, you're 5, and Ebony is 6, and Brenda is 7, and 3 is an alternate at 10.
What am I at?
I think you're at 4. Oh. I don't have it with me, so.
I wrote it down, but I forgot my package on my table.
Okay. I was just curious.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'd like to make a comment. We did have this discussion, and it was brought up, and I had asked at the beginning of our term to be placed on Sea Park, and the mayor had stated that she would keep Bev on there, Councillor Berger, because she'd been on for the past 3 years. And during the discussion about this appointment, the mayor had requested that I sit on that committee, and I'm okay with you sitting there.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Parkinson. And I think it's important to be mindful that there's some equity in terms of committees. And so thank you. Councillor Berger.
Well, I believe this is just for an alternate, so if the director couldn't be there.
Right. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Okay. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay. Carried. Button back on. RA4, the Souk Fire Commission Terms of Reference Amendment. Councillor Sullivan. Sorry about that. Ms. Sullivan.
Ran for election.
Maybe I should be sitting at a separate table. The recommendation for this is that the council approve the amendments to terms of reference for the Souk Fire Services Commission, with one piece being fixed, which is 4.0 term. That's an error on our part, and we would like to have it go back to a 2-year term. So you can see the changes that we are proposing. And it's basically that the Fire Commission reports through the CAO to council rather than to council directly. The reason for that is the fire department is under my responsibility, and I think it's really important that because it is under my responsibility that the reporting relationship goes through that way.
And then to council.
Of course, then to council.
Okay, any discussion? Councillor Berger, then Councillor Pearson.
Yes, thank you. I first want to say thank you to staff for pointing out the changes. It's always nice when they're right there as opposed to trying finding them all. So thank you for the report. And I'll move the suggested recommendation.
Second by Councillor Logans. Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, and it was the same thing. I wanted to thank the staff for the changes because they're tracked on here, so it was easy to see. And yeah, no, I support the motion. It's good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or concerns? Okay. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. All right. RA 5, the hiring committee terms of reference amendment.
Thank you. Through the chair, this recommendation is to approve the amendments to the terms of reference for the hiring committee. And the reason being that mayor and council have one employee, and that's called the chief administrative officer. The rest of the employees are the responsibility of the CAO to hire. So it's just cleaning up the hiring committee terms of reference.
Okay. And okay, go ahead. Councillor Berger, then Councillor Pearson.
I just was going to move the suggested recommendation.
Seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion? The one thing, and I don't know if this would probably need a second motion. I think now that as the hiring committee only does hire the CAO position, I don't know that this committee needs to be active at this time. And so some further thought that this committee, I believe, would it be rescinded? Because it's not going to be an active sitting committee. Councillor, that's twice now. Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you. Through the chair, I think it would be appropriate for us to discontinue the hiring committee after my 6-month probation is up.
Okay, thank you. So we will move that to, okay. All right. Any more conversation or discussion? Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. So next is reports for information. The RCMP monthly mayor report is attached.
Seconded.
Second. Any discussion, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The 2016 preliminary assessment role analysis, and this is coming from the finance department. Is there a report or just receipt for information?
It's received for information, but if you would like some explanation from our Director of Finance, he's here to answer any questions.
Okay. Okay, I need somebody to move receipt. Okay, thank you. Councillor Logans. Second. Councillor Pearson. Okay, discussion. Councillor Casper.
So the non-market growth, what would that equate to as far as additional revenue if everything remains status quo to what it was last year?
Through the chair, that would be using the same rates as last year. It's approximately 118,000. 118. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
I thought I saw Councillor Berger or Councillor Pearson. Okay. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. R1. Is that an I or one? Aye. RI3, Mayor's Report. Actually, Mayor's and Councillor Report. Start with councillors, and who'd like to go first?
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Parkinson.
So Tuesday, or January 12th, a number of us attended the workshop with Flintstone, and there was a great number of people that attended this workshop. It was on all the different committee structures and conflict of interest and different things that committee members should know about. And then on January 14th, I attended the MOU working group with the Tasauk Nation. On Friday, January 15th, I was invited to a new project in Souk, which is called the Souk Harmony Project, which is out of Los Angeles, and it's for students to learn how to play the strings and to play drums in a marching band. So this program will be the first time that it's outside of the United States, and they partnered with Souk under Maestro Norman Nelson. So it's at Journey Middle School, and they are taking 25 students in grade 2 and 3 to learn how to play the strings. And there's 20 students from grade 6, 7, and 8 learning how to play the drums in marching band. So I'm sitting on that committee, so that's going to be quite fun, I think, with the children. And then on January 18th, I attended the TAC committee meeting, and on January 21st was the transportation forum, looking at transportation around Souk trails through the CRD, connecting, having safe walking places for children going in between schools, parks, and around town. And then on January 23rd was the Souk Community Association Appreciation Dinner.
Thank you, Councillor Parkinson. Councillor Logans? Okay. Thank you. Councillor Casper?
Well, I'd just like to report I've attended a number of meetings, committee meetings, re-CRD, and during the past month, and I don't have anything of any major consequence to report that affects Souk at this time. I also attended the meeting with the school district in regard to safe routes to school, and it was a very good presentation by all the different bodies that were there, and I'm talking government groups who had something to say about it. And also like to note that our staff did a very good job on their presentation, and it was well received, I think, by those who had attended. The other thing that I attended also on your behalf, Acting Mayor, was the MOU committee, and at that meeting, we had a great deal of discussion there, and we will be talking about that at a later date. So that's all I have to report. I will have some more reports at the end of the month. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Casper. Councillor Pearson?
No report at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pearson. Councillor Berger? Thank you. I, too, attended the school transportation meeting last week, and I just thought one of the interesting statistics that they did raise is that the school district 62 is one of the fastest growing school districts in the province, and it's expected to go an increase of 20% over the next number of years. So I think that's what I've got, 20, but it sounds like a lot. But so this school district is growing very quickly, and it just highlights the needs in terms of making sure our children get to school in a safe manner. So thank you. And that takes us to R14. Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Very brief report informing everyone that I have now met with over 200 people since December 14th, members of the business community, residents, members of the development community. I've also met with staff and residents or businesses in other municipalities to get my finger on the pulse of what's going on in Souk, what we're doing well, what we need some work on. And so at the end of the month, I will be able to report back in a more formal way. But it's been an exciting 6 weeks, and I certainly have been welcomed by the residents of Souk, and I just want to thank everyone for their support. It's been incredible.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
So that completes the reports for information section, and we've already done C1. And so the last item is a report of the in-camera resolution. And that is the appointment of the Sioux Fire Service Commission appointments. Kenneth Eds Canavan, Cameron McIntyre, and Marie Lambert to the Sioux Fire Services Commission effective immediately. And that moved and seconded that council approve the honorarium in the amount of $2,500 for the members of the Sioux Fire Services Commission, and that be released. So that is now done. And that takes us to the end.
Sweet. Sweet.
Okay, so we'll
Motion to adjourn.
move back into
Motion to adjourn?
Is that right?